My name is Connor, and at the age of 13, I was statutory R-worded by a popular TikTok influencer.
My name is Hasiel, and this is part 3 about how I was online G-worded by a popular TikTok influencer.
Why am I not in jail? Because I didn't do anything.
I've got a big ego. I really don't know why it's such a big deal, though.
Say like, oh, Jesus will forgive my sins and things like that, and it's like, I don't. Who cares what Jesus thinks?
This is the heavy one. We wanted to talk about Zoe Laverne and the grooming, the grooming allegations being now confirmed. I mean, it's been out there. It's been out there since 2020.
Wake your ass up, bitch! I'm up.
Everyone could see it, but it didn't seem like there was a clear. None of them knew what to do, and that's really the thing. With overall, on our YouTube channel, we've talked about grooming a lot. I've posted photo things on my TikTok channel that is just screenshots of all the different videos we've made about grooming. A lot of times they're kind of just talking about what happened, but they're not really telling anybody what to do if something like this happens again, or if you start hearing something about her doing this sort of thing with other kids, because that's highly probable. And so I want to, at least for us to try to do that, to try to give people actionable, actually actionable steps that you can do if you see somebody that you think might be in this situation. So the next time it does happen like this, because it will happen again in this sort of way, because it just happens especially with kids and people that they look up to online, at least maybe some people will have an idea of what to do instead of just feeling frozen or trapped or just not having any clue what to do, because nobody actually gives good advice.
Unfortunately, there will be.
When everything happened with Connor and Zoe and people started seeing these videos of her talking about quote unquote dating him and posting videos of him basically kissing him publicly and things like that were out there. There were other things that the kids that were on these group Zoom calls and things, or FaceTime calls, also saw between them. All of the kids that she talked to all knew that this was going on, and none of them knew what to do. And the only thing that people at the time in 2020, when this initially happened, did was a bunch of them called the police in where he lives. And when they called the police did, of course, nothing. The police usually do nothing when it comes to situations like this, but especially with a boy. They do even less than nothing.
I had to bring my devices for them to be searched, and they had told me that they believed what I was saying and did not search my devices. Now, at the end of the day, again, I did not have some testimony of some whole story made up of, no, this didn't happen, here's why. I just shook my head no, and I replied with yes and no. They then documented that they had searched through my belongings and found no evidence of anything, no worries, no concerns, yet my devices were never, not once, touched, that I can solemnly swear on.
Advice that I always have for people, especially if you're a kid too, and you see a friend of yours talking to somebody online or in person, and you're afraid that, and they're talking to somebody who's a lot older than you guys are, and you know that that's not right, or you feel weird about it and you don't know how to talk to your friend about it because you've tried, but they get upset whenever you do, it doesn't really go anywhere. Or especially if you're an adult and you're trying to figure out how to talk to a kid about it without them shutting down and just not telling you anything. I know this isn't the advice that anybody wants to hear, because it's not a quick decision, but this is the thing that will actually lead to something good happening, which is to just listen to them when they talk about that other person. And when things come up that you might find like troubling, like you like ask them about it, and but not in like a argumentative or like confronting sort of way. Just kind of ask them questions, like when they tell them about something, they tell you about something that person said to them that they didn't like people do, and ask them like, how, like, how do you feel about that, or like what did you think when they said that? Just like give them the option to like think about it, because that kind of stuff does lead to things happening. Or invite them to places, like even if you hate the person that they're around, be like, hey, can you and whoever, like if it's somebody that they know in person, especially this is easier I suppose in person, but it works when it's online too, like, hey, can so and so come with you? We're gonna get together at so and so's house and watch movies. Can you guys come with? Or we're going somewhere. Can you guys come with us? And just like invite them to places, to give like the person like the opportunity to show that they're not a creep, because somebody who isn't a creep would come to things like that and try to get to know their friends, the people that are in their lives. But a lot of times people like that don't want to know those people. They want to keep you alone, isolated, away from everybody else, like what happened with the kids with Zoe. And so if you just ask them, like prompt them, like to come and like hang out with you, or to just, or even to like ask your friend, like, hey, can you come over and like sleep over at my house this weekend? Can you like come to like whatever with like my family alone? Like there should be no problem with them, with that person letting them go to things by themselves. And like that even works when you're online, because if it's like an online situation, you could be like, hey, could I like FaceTime with you guys to get to know this person? Or do you want to like go on one of those websites where you can watch movies together? We could watch movies together one night. Or can I talk to you like just us instead of with them there? And it's like just like the easy things to bring up like that, so that, and it like the reason why that kind of stuff generally works in the long term is that it gives the person the opportunity to realize over time that there is something wrong on their own. Because whether people like it or not, the only way to actually help somebody, no matter who it is, whether it's a kid that is being groomed by somebody impersonating somebody, or a real person like Zoe doing it on Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok or Discord or Be Real or whatever other app comes out. Or if it's like an adult that is getting to know somebody in person, or somebody online too that is being like going through the same thing. It can be people in their 40s and 50s can experience grooming in some way. You can experience grooming from a boss that you work for, and even with outside of like romantic situations, your friends can groom you if they want to, and things like that too. But I'm just saying, it doesn't matter the age or like where it happens or what it is. The thing that always helps somebody get away is them realizing slowly on their own what is actually going on. And then once they realize, that the key always in these situations is to help them prompt with things, so they can realize like a problem, because a problem just keeps like reoccurring, and they can't help but notice it, obviously, that like this person in their life isn't letting them see their friends or their family anymore. Like Connor mentioned that was one of those things he noticed that was going on with him, that made him like question what was going on with Zoe, because he never saw his friends anymore, and his friends would ask him where he was and if he was okay. His parents never saw him anymore because he was always on his phone with her, and they were asking if he was okay. And the other victim mentioned this similar sort of things happening with people in his life as well. Every kid, even the kids that were groomed by her in like non-romantic ways, that were groomed by her, who had like fan accounts and fan sites and stuff, mentioned similar things. And so if people keep noticing the same issues and problems keep coming up, they will go to people in their life that they trust to talk to you about that. If you have shown that you are a friend of theirs that has tried to get to know this person, that hasn't like said anything to them about how that person is bad for you, you need to break up with them. You're like the person that they go to talk about whatever's going on. Then when things start going badly, they will come to you about that too. If you try to force them and try to tell them on your timeline when you want them to figure it out, you are going to explode that relationship. And then when they do realize that something is wrong, they won't have a way to get out. That is what happens every time when people try to force it, because they just want it to happen when they want it to happen. I understand that it's hard to watch kids especially, but I understand that it's hard to watch anybody going through something that you know is hurting them. Trust me, I understand. I see it all the time. Seeing like the videos that we make, I see kids posting about being sexually abused in the past and had never told anybody before. And I just kind of like watch their videos and like them, but I usually don't even comment on them because I don't want to scare them away. But I do.
But your strategy of being ever present also would just let the person know, hey, there's somebody that cares about this person, somebody who has their eyes on them.
Yeah,
and
like somebody still cares about me outside of this person. Because a lot of that stuff, a lot of like the grooming stuff that happens is that the person that's grooming you feel like they're the only person that would understand you. They're the only person that would like put up with you kind of stuff. And so if there's somebody else in their life that is still there with them, despite whatever else has happened, it shows that that person is not the only one. Yeah. And it's just like people talk about support systems, but that is actually what being a support system is. Mm-hmm. That is actually supporting them. It's easy to say you're being somebody's support system when everything is going fine. Yeah. It's not easy to be the person that is trying to support them when everything is awful, but they haven't completely realized it yet. And part of caring about people sometimes is sticking it out with them when they're in that place so that they have a much easier time of realizing it and getting away from that person a lot faster, because every abusive situation you've ever heard that gets to a really bad place where they get like physically harmed or they die or they hurt somebody in a serious way or something, those always happen because they don't have anybody to go to, because the people that they had in their life that were friends and things like that just like dropped away. Like I think yesterday or the day before, I saw this video on TikTok that was this girl telling like this really animated, like fun just story. She said it was just like one of those wild stories about online friends when she was a teenager on Tumblr. And she was telling this whole story about this girl that she was really good, like a best friend online, and the things that they had in common and blah, blah, blah. Towards the end of the story, all of a sudden, she says in like this still like happy sounding voice, she's describing that her friend was in an abusive relationship. And that when that friend was in an abusive relationship, she stopped talking to her for a while. And then when she came back and said that she wanted to talk to her again, she blocked her. And I like sat there and like looking at that video for a while afterwards, and I was like, that was so disorienting, because that girl told that whole story as like a fun anecdote, but when it comes down to it, it was a teenage girl that she was really close friends with that was in an abusive relationship, and when she disappeared because she was in that relationship, she just cut off contact with her completely. And that happens a lot. I know that it's not easy to watch somebody going through something that you know is hurting them, but if you actually care about that person, it's really worth it to do that. Even if it's hard for you, whatever they're experiencing is likely a lot worse. Yeah. And if you kind of stick it out for a little bit, it will make whatever they're going through shorter. Yeah. And a lot easier. And that's just what I wish. I see videos all the time of people talking about grooming, and they never give any actual advice. And this is like the advice that I always want to give people. I've tried to do it before, but the videos that I would make about grooming wouldn't get a lot of views because I'm not being crazy about it. But that's generally the advice, is like try to stay in contact with them, try to make up times where you could interact with the person that's grooming them to naturally show the problems in that relationship. Like, you don't have to explain to the person that they're trying to isolate you when every time you try to hang out with that person, they find a reason to not show up. Like, that person knows because they've already seen it happen. You don't have to, like, go through this whole thing of explaining it all to them when they've seen the things that people who are grooming do in front of their own eyes. It's right there. And so they can figure it out. Even if they don't know the name of what's happening to them, they understand that something that they don't like is going on. And that's really what it is. Like, every time there's a trend on TikTok about grooming, I just get so mad because I'm like, every person that is going through this is now, like, at least a year of them being in that relationship after this, because you've just made victims feel shame, and which just makes them want to prove that you're wrong about the relationship that they're in.
Yeah. I will say the only thing that where it was like I would call the police immediately, and this is just my thing with like with situations like this, and particularly something Zoe kept doing, was she kept telling people, "Oh, if you don't talk to me, I'm gonna kill my," or I'm gonna, yeah, I won't say the words because TikTok will, yeah.
Call the police
But
on
like,
her.
yes, yeah, if someone is genuinely telling you, "Hey, if you don't do this for me, I'm going to unalive myself," that is the one time where you should be like, you know what, I'm going to take this extremely seriously. I'm going to call somebody, because if you're feeling that way, I am not, like me, a teenager is not the person who's going to fix this.
Yeah.
And so that's like the one part of the situation where I'm like, okay, you should, you know, like as the person this is happening to, probably call the police in that situation, even just to call their bluff.
Yeah. Because when the most manipulative, like, abusive thing that anyone can say to you is is bring up, like, suicide in that way. That is just, when they go there, it means that they have, like, tried everything else and nothing else has worked. I always feel like a crazy person saying this because the internet is really weird about kids. But kids are human beings.
Yeah.
FYI. And so anyone who actually cares about kids wouldn't want to tell them something that would be really upsetting to them, that would be, like, generally traumatic for them to hear. Like, if it's traumatic for an adult to be told, like, I'm going to kill myself if you don't do this for me, a child would be even worse, because a child doesn't have, like, the emotional intelligence or, like, the developmental, like, levels that adults have to even know how to handle that. Adults don't even know how to handle that, much less a child.
Yeah.
And so anyone who, it doesn't even have to be something that bad, but when people go to kids when you're not the same age as a kid, like, if you're much older than them, and you're going to kids and telling them things that would upset anybody, there's something off going on there, because why would you want to make a kid upset on purpose?
Yeah. So I do like your strategy. And I do get why it's hard to trust somebody who goes immediately to the police. Like, there is kind of a middle ground here of, you want that person to be ready. You want that person to be, like, ready to fully go and, like, I want to do something about this. And you want to be the person that helps them figure out, like, hey, something bad is happening to me. Because a lot of times when you're that young, you don't even realize it's bad. Like, you've talked about this, where you didn't even realize that was what was happening to you until you learned about that.
Oh, I can, like, are you sure you're okay? Like, your heart's beating really fast. Like, are you sure? And I did say yes. At the end of the day, I did say yes. I'm not going to sit here and make allegations as though that she forced herself onto me, because that wasn't entirely the situation. But it still was very obvious that I was uncomfortable. It still was very obvious that I didn't want to. And more so, it still was very obvious that I just simply was not ready. At the end of the day, I was freshly 13 years old. I hadn't even had my first kiss yet. She was my first for everything, and she knew this. Even prior to developing something more, she had known that I was completely innocent and known that I hadn't been experiencing like that which is why I think it is so selfish and just disgusting that she felt she should have been that person to take that